Raj, you're a traitor, and I hate you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 35 of the Coconut Curry Podcast. On this episode, we're going to talk about Game 1 and Game 2 of the NBA Finals, as well as make our predictions for the remaining games. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers missing minicamp. That's mandatory.
Yeah.
And then enjoy that picture of Raj with an India flag. And then we're going to talk about Dan Hurley, JJ Redick, the whole coaching circle of the Los Angeles Lakers. So before we do that, we are 3 postgraduate students from the University of Pittsburgh. We've got Raj, Peter, and myself all on today. The gang is back together, and we're just chatting about sports and hopefully offering a fresh new perspective on things. If you could please like, comment, subscribe, that would help us out a lot. We always start with Disgruntled Moment of the Week, which is what we're going to do today. Disgruntled, meaning angry or dissatisfied. We discuss moments in the sports world or our personal life that makes us or ourselves or other people dissatisfied. So we're going to start with Peter, because you've got your Disgruntled Moment of the Week ready.
My Disgruntled Moment of the Week is the state of my cardio. It's terrible. So for context, the hospital that I work at, I usually take a bus to it, but it's not too far away. Like, I could walk to it, but I'm lazy and I want to go get the bus in the morning. So one of my patients that I was like talking to a little bit, they were like, "Oh yeah, like it's a really nice day out, like whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, like maybe I'll end up just walking home today, just to like, get outside a little bit, because I'm always like, I'm sitting in a doctor's office for like 9 hours basically. Like, it's really stuffy in there. It's freezing because they're just blasting the AC constantly.
You've got the lights that come down from the top.
The fluorescent everybody looks just sick constantly. It's just like, you know what? Let me get outside." And kind of the area that I was walking in is called Shady Side. So if you could guess, there's a lot of shade out there. So it's like, oh yeah, it's a really nice temperature out. Like it's like, it's all good. Like, I'm walking. I get out of Shady Side and I start hitting one of our main streets, which is 5th Avenue. And there's no shade. And it's really sunny. And what I didn't put together is that I was wearing black scrubs that day. And I started sweating instantaneously because I can't walk more than 30 feet without just huffing and puffing. And it is so embarrassing. And I need to start actually doing cardio because I was so embarrassed. I was like, this is terrible. I can't be getting gassed walking home. Like, I get it. It's hot, but this is bad. I can't have it.
The black scrubs in the summer is brutal, because I used to do like a 10-minute walk from like South O into the bus stop to get to downtown. And even just like with 80% humidity in the morning, even if it's only like 70 degrees, like I'm like, I get to the bus stop and I'm like, no sweat, no sweat. We got to get to work.
Yeah, then you show up at work just sweaty and already smelling. It's like, oh, perfect.
And you're like, ugh. And then you're like sitting down in the hospital and like
it's like getting stuck to you. You're like, ugh. Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah, it's just not a great feeling.
No.
The problem is the worst time to work on your cardio is in the summer because it's so hot outside.
Of course. This is literally the worst time for me to start realizing this. But I'll figure it out.
It's like the cycle of cardio, though, where it's like, realize you have a cardio problem, do cardio, realize you don't like cardio, doing cardio, don't do cardio.
Have a cardio problem. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It just goes back in the endless circle. So
absolutely.
Raj, what's your disgruntled moment of the week?
You know, it was going to be something about our trip to Chicago, but right now it's this goddamn microphone. I don't understand. Like, it's plugged in. It was perfectly fine up until out of nowhere my computer just freezes and then it's disconnected. And now I can't switch over back in the middle of this recording. So, you know what? I'm just going to hold the microphone like this, unconnected the whole time, just for the principle of it now.
A little behind the scenes for everyone listening. Just constant technology problems all the time. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, we record in person. Our mics work absolutely fine, no issue. Then you go into the virtual format. It should be easy, right? You plug your mic into the computer, it works. Well, last episode, if you listen to it, mics are a problem. Raj and I are half on mics, half off. Peter doesn't have a single issue.
Nope. Even though they're the same microphones.
Same microphones, yeah. But whatever, we keep rolling. We deal with the punches as they come. My disgruntled moment of the week is injuries, specifically injuries on the Philadelphia Phillies, the baseball team that Raj and I root for, because the Phillies are having a great season. They're 46-20 or 45-20, whatever the record is right now, and things are going great, and the team's playing awesome. But of course, injuries have to arise. Like you can't have nice things. Is pretty much like the moral of the story here. Like,
Yeah.
you know, early in the season, we're playing good. Trey Turner, who's having a great season, gets injured. Okay, like, yeah, he pulls his hamstring. Not too serious. He's had some setbacks, whatever. One player's injured. Trey Turner's fine. Then Brandon Marsh gets injured. He's like our ninth guy, can be 10th. He plays some. He's not an everyday player, but he's a big part of the team, gets injured. It's like, okay, well, Brandon Marsh is not the biggest deal in the world. We'll be okay. 2 injuries. Then our all-star catcher gets injured, and he's out for a month. And it's like, what more? Like, in the beginning of the season, we were playing, like, we had a cake schedule. Everything was fine. Like, we could deal with the injuries. Now, all of a sudden, you're starting to play, like, a bunch of teams that are 500, over 500. You have a series with the Dodgers coming up soon, Orioles soon. Now, you got 3 starters out, and you're like, wow, this team can't hit anymore because we don't have any, like, all of our good hitters are out. So, it's the same thing with injuries in any sport, but it's just specifically baseball. It's just like, there's so many games in the season, and you're just like, why? Like, why right now does there have to be injuries? Like, we could have used the injuries in the beginning of the season.
Exactly. Like, I had the same thing because the Yankees just recently played the Dodgers, and Juan Soto was out for that whole series, and the Yankees only won one of those games. I mean, they basically split the series, even though it was a 3-game series, because the first game it was like 2-1 and went to
11 innings. Yeah,
like, who cares? But that team looks night and day different with one person out of the lineup, and it's like, Jesus. And it was like he had like a sore forearm or something. So it's like, yeah, we'll just sit him down for a couple days.
Forearm inflammation. It's kind of like forearm inflammation, similar to like Kristaps' injury, where it's like, oh, he like tore his medial retinaculus or whatever. Like, what the hell are we even talking about here?
It's like, look, if he needs some rest, let him rest. Just say that. Like, it's fine. Yeah. But like,
hey, his arm hurty.
His arm hurty. It's like, how? Like, he's a baseball player. Like, it's like there was no actual injury. It's just like, yeah, he's sore. It's like, isn't that kind of just how sports works? Like,
especially baseball, it's 162 games. Like,
exactly, yeah.
Or they say in football in the playoffs, like, everyone's beat up.
Exactly, yeah. But it's in baseball, especially, like, it could be just night and day. The second like one dude is out of like a 9-person lineup, and it's just like, oh my god, this team's terrible.
Well, the crazy thing about the Phillies is they've been so good without Trey Turner, but Trey's batting 343, I think, on the year, or 330, or he's like right around really there. Good. So he's having had a fantastic season until he's been out for like 6 weeks now.
Yeah, true.
So everyone's like, oh, the Phillies are doing really good. I'm like, we're not even playing with like arguably our second best player. He's out, and now our catcher's out, and now, so it just drives me up the wall, because then you're just like waiting. Like, me and my dad are going to the 2 Orioles games this weekend. Orioles, obviously the second best team in the American League, and it's like, oh great, the infirmary Phillies against the Orioles. Like, glad I get to go to this series now.
Yeah,
don't even get to see all the boys. And
don't worry, Trey is going to be back next week. So we have.
Well, he was supposed to come back already, and then he had a setback. So I don't.
Well, I mean, the team's been chilling. So he said he's ramping up his rehab today or yesterday, and then I think they're saying he's going to be activated next Monday.
That's good.
So hopefully,
also a little convenient for JT to go on IR the second that Pride Month starts.
Yeah,
just saying, little
sus.
We're
on to him.
I saw all the posts
he's not in the, because that time that he was only in like the States for a couple days during Pride Month. Then he goes to London.
Yep.
Of course, you're going to play the London series. Then you come back. Suddenly, you're out for the month of June.
Look,
and he's gonna miss the Phillies Pride Month game, the Pride game they have.
Little sus. That's all I'm gonna say.
I agree. Well, that's our disgruntled moment of the week. Got a little off the rails there at the end, as it usually does. But great segment as always. Our favorite segment. But now we're going to shift gears into talking about the NBA Finals, which, truthfully, I don't think any of us are happy about, because we hate the Celtics.
It's like, oh, cool, they're the best team. Anyway, like, there's no like cool matchups to watch, because it's just like Luka trying his hardest, looking amazing. Like, he looks like 2018 LeBron out there, where he's like putting up 35 a game, and then like no one else is supporting him. And then Jason Tatum, who's supposed to be the superstar on the team, is averaging like 15 points. like doesn't even look that good. Jaylen Brown finally learned how to use his left hand and is like good. And then J. Rule Holiday has like Kyrie in a straight jacket the entire game. So it's like, oh, cool.
Yep, it's a good synopsis of the series. So Celtics are up 2-0. And mind you, none of us like the Celtics.
No.
But so if you get any negative tone out of this, that's why. Celtics win game 1, 107-89. It's not particularly close. Luka goes 30-10-1. Kristaps only had 20 and 6 in his 20 minutes, but you felt the impact of him playing in that first and second quarter because it was night and day when he was on the court. It was like he came on the court, super exciting, splashing 30-foot threes, blocking people at the rim. Made it pretty much was responsible for the Celtics getting up, I think, near 27 in that game, and then they kind of coasted through. Just a huge game 1 victory, and something I saw coming. I before the game bet Celtics minus 10.5 and cashed on that easily. So, any takeaways from game 1?
I didn't really watch game 1, but all I'm concerned. I mean, the Celtics are on another level right now, playing wise. Game 2, I know it seemed a little bit closer, but the Celtics are just insane. Drew Holiday's been balling. Tingus Pingus has been good. I don't know what the Mavs can do to like change the momentum. Maybe just being at home might help.
Yeah, I think. And then game 2, obviously 105-98. Celtics win again. That game, like 7-point game. It was 12-14 late. Mavs went on a late run to get it a little bit closer, but it was never actually that close. I think the big problem the Mavericks are having is they can't defend the Celtics, and the Celtics can defend them. So if you can't play offense and you can't play defense, then you're not going to
lose. Like that's just how that works.
You're just going to lose. It doesn't matter that Luka is by far the best player on the court because their team's just a lot better. It's like I think it's a terrible matchup for Dallas. And you can go through like the X's and O's of it all. Like the Celtics, some of their players, it's a small sample size, but like it's not like Jaylen Brown is averaging 30 on 60% shooting. It's not like Jason Tatum's averaging 30 on 50% shooting. Like it's just an all-around team effort at this point. Like Jaylen Brown's for the series so far is averaging 22, Tatum 17, Holiday 19, Derek Wright 17, Kristaps 16. Like they're just killing you down the board. They're just killing you down the board because not one guy needs to score a lot of points because they're all really good. And they're just doing their role. I know Jason Tatum's going to catch a lot of flack for his 32% shooting and his 17 points, but if you watch the game, Jason controls everything on offense. He dribbles the ball up the court. He starts setting screens. He gets the ball. He passes it, getting guys easy looks. Like it would be nice if he shot 50% and averaged 25 and they would win by more points, but he doesn't need to do that. They've won game 1 and 2 by big margins, and he hasn't had to do so. So going home for game 3, and we'll talk about our projections for the rest of the series, obviously will help Dallas. Role players play better at home, and Dallas will have, and also Dallas is going to be desperate because you cannot, no team's ever come back 3-0, but the Mavericks aren't coming back down 3-0 against the Celtics. So that's, I hate being like, there's just nothing Dallas can do, but it kind of feels like there's nothing Dallas can do because if you just look at how their team, like, and I watched a video on Awful Coaching. Like, there's so much to talk about with this series, but I watched a video from Awful Coaching. It's a YouTube channel. Go check him out. He pretty much just screams. He like cuts tape and screams.
I thought I recognized the name. I've seen him on TikTok. He is so funny, dude.
But he actually knows what he's talking about. And every time he's doing this video, he's talking about they bring Derek Lively up in the screen with Luka. So it's like Luka got the ball, and then Derek Lively setting the screen. But the problem is Jason Tatum is guarding Derek Lively. So what happens is instead of Jaylen Brown guarding Luka, they switch the screen so that Jason Tatum guards Luka. There's no difference. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, there's no difference in who's guarding who. So like they do all this like bringing guys up in the ball screen, and the guy's like sitting there screaming. He's like, what the hell? Like there's no need to bring this guy up in the ball screen. Like he sucks. Like it's like Jason Tatum is like 95% of the on-ball defender Jaylen Brown is. There's no reason to set the screen. So then you waste 20 seconds of the shot clock doing this screen just for Jason Tatum to end up ISO on Luka, and then Luka like throws up a desperation shot at the end of the clock. So what you really need to do is bring a different guy up in the ball screen, but they don't have enough talent to do that, because if you look down the Celtics roster, Derek Lively can't shoot. Daniel Gafford can't shoot. They're roll to the rim guys, lob threats. Maybe he can do a little bit of a move inside just to get a shot up, but they're not like talented offensive players. So you take those two out. The only guys who can create and make their own shots in the starting lineup is PJ Washington, Kyrie, and Luka. Then you start going to the bench where you could say guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Josh Green and whatnot, but you're starting to really go down the roster there where there's just not much talent. So they're really just going to need to hope Kyrie can do something, but they're talking about for Kyrie too, and see, like, Drew Holiday is fantastic. It's not, some of it's Kyrie, but also he's just being clamped by a great defender.
Yeah. It's like, the thing is like at this point, like I do hate the Celtics so much. Like I hate their fans. I hate the organization just so much. I'm a certified hater. You can absolutely clown me for it. But they are such a good overall and well-built team that this is like good for basketball, for a good team to end up being this good in the finals, because it's like it's not just one guy kind of taking it over. It is just like, this is the most like everybody, like you were saying, down the roster, everybody's just getting decent points, decent assists, decent rebounds. Every single person is putting in the effort.
So
and
I mean, just you go down Celtics roster, right? Really quick. Point guard Derek White can shoot and defend. He's not a great defender, but he can still defend. Drew Holiday can shoot and defend. Jaylen Brown can shoot and defend. Jason Tatum can shoot and defend. Kristaps can shoot and defend. Al Horford can shoot and defend. Sam Hauser can shoot and defend. Peyton Pritchard can shoot. Like, everybody can play defense and is not a liability on offense. So when you do that, you shrink your margin. Like, your margin for error to beat the Celtics is so small, because you can't be like, oh, let's just leave Jason Tatum open and we'll let him miss. That's what they're doing with Derek Jones Jr. over on Dallas. They're like, let him take threes. He'll miss them because he's not a good offensive player, but you can't do it with the Celtics. So if you leave him open, they're going to kill you.
Yeah. So it's like, as much as I do hate the Celtics, I do appreciate that, like, this is like, I feel like the Celtics are like what the Knicks are eventually trying to be, where it's like they're a very kind of two-way team, like very scrappy on defense, but can also obviously like outperform you on offense, kind of thing. Obviously, they're constructed differently. I saw Justin was really trying to put that together.
I think it's a really good comp. The only difference is that the star player on the Celtics is 6'10" and plays power
versus
forward,
who's 5'10", like. Was like 2 feet tall, but yeah, it is good for basketball that team basketball is clearly, like, even last year, as much as like Joker and Jamal Murray were kind of taking over, like it was like the team that was putting that together, and like and then now you see with Boston, it's like they are like the epitome of team basketball. Like it's good to see that team basketball is like coming back. But it kind of just sucks to watch, where it's like you see that the Mavs are just not built anywhere close to play against the Celtics. And it's just like, okay, I'm going to watch Luka have an amazing performance and still lose by 20. And it doesn't matter.
Yep. You go back to the Denver team too. That's a team that Jamal Murray's not a great defender, but he can defend. He can show you can score and defend. KCP can shoot and defend. Michael Porter Jr. can shoot and defend. Aaron Gordon shoot, defend. And Nikola Jokic can shoot and defend. And you just go down the roster. There's just no, like, you just can't leave guys open. Whereas when you have those holds, I mean, it's a big problem. Raj and I know all too well with Ben Simmons and some of the Sixers teams. Like, some of the guys can't defend, some of the guys can't shoot, and then all of a sudden you have just these gaps in the team that you can't overcome because they're liabilities. And when nobody on your team's a liability, you can do that. We can just look to the numbers here. I put this in our notes. Derek Lively in 18 minutes in game 1 was minus 15. Derek Lively in 19 minutes in game 2 was a minus 15. Like, that is liability type of performance. And Derek Lively, I want to give him, like, he's been fantastic. I've talked about how his mother died this year. He's a rookie in the league. Like, he's really had a great season for a rookie center, but he's getting killed out there in the games because Jason Tatum's guarding him. Then he comes up and ball screen. Derek Lively's only only threat is as a lob threat or an inside threat. They can't even get the ball into him because they'll double out, and they can leave guys like Derek Jones Jr. or Daniel Gafford open to shoot from the perimeter because they can't shoot. Suddenly you're a one-dimensional team and things go awry. And Luka has been having a good series. He's 31, 11, and 6, but he has played some god-awful defense. I don't know if you guys have seen the clips of him getting blown
so
by.
Bad.
I mean, this is what happens, right? Like you're carrying the offensive load on your shoulders, and you just don't want to go play defense. But I mean, all the Celtics do is they get the ball, they blow by their defenders because it's either Daniel Gafford, Kyrie, or Luka who get blown by. Then the Mavericks defense, which is pretty good, is running all over the court to try to defend Boston, but everybody can shoot on Boston, so they have to keep running on them, and then eventually Boston will either have a wide open 3 or an easy pass inside for 2. Now the Mavericks are exhausted. Then Luka comes up and dribbles the ball. Well, the Celtics have a great defensive team. They burn the shot clock out. Luka chucks up a shot that's not a good opportunity, or Kyrie is terrible. And then the Celtics are coming the other way, and they just repeat. Like,
just literally gassing these teams. Like, there's nothing they can do.
No, and the Celtics don't even get tired playing defense because they switch everything. They're not like running over the top of the screens. It's just like, if Al Horford gets in the ball screen, they're like, all right, Al Horford can defend Luka, and he stays in front of him. Luka gets a better look than if he's on being guarded by Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. But like, they'll live with the Al Horford shot. If he makes it, cool. If he misses it, great.
Yeah, as long as it's contested, like, you know what? It's fine. Like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, with any player, if you're going to shoot a 30-foot 3, step back and cash it in 50% of the time, well, you know what?
Like, it's just good. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just...
Who let this team get all these players in the
Well,
offseason?
it's a testament to Brad Stevens, right? Like, he's the coach of the team. He moves up to the executive office. He won Executive of the Year this year, and this is the reason why. You assemble a team. I think people... I'll have to look at the package real quick. When Kristaps was traded, a lot of people were like, I don't
know about
give
this.
Up too much.
Yeah.
And it's like, you might. Well, this also the Drew Holiday trade into it too. And this is where they just get in. Like, the Celtics were willing to get rid of their pieces and say, we're going to win now. And other teams aren't always willing to. So Celtics got Kristaps 25 pick this year. Wait, no. In the draft last year. I don't even know who they drafted with that. And they got a first round pick, top 4 protected for this year coming up. And then the Grizzlies got Marcus Smart. And then the Wizards got Tyus Jones, Neil Gallinari. Like, it was just a robbery. Pretty much it's just because they wanted to get rid of contracts.
Yeah.
And that's great. But, Brad Stevens saw an opportunity to improve their roster with a guy who could shoot and defend at the center position. They did that. And then they go in, and I think people forget, like, Drew Holiday wasn't a Boston Celtic. Like, Drew Holiday just joined the Celtics this year.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is the team that still lost to Miami last year. No. This team is drastically different.
Yeah.
Like, Drew Holiday is just an upgraded version of Marcus Smart. And they made the conference finals last year and played in a game 7 last year with Marcus Smart on the roster. Then you just gave Drew Holiday, who, and I think just people forget, like, Drew Holiday has been on an all NBA team before. He won a title in 2021 with the Bucks. Like, this isn't like some role player. Like, Drew Holiday is like a good 3 on a championship team. Yeah. And they added this guy there. So Brad Stevens has done a great job there, and he just saw the opportunities to improve the team. Like, the Celtics got Drew Holiday, the Blazers got Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, the first they got from the trade with Kristaps, a 2029 unprotected first round pick, which that could be worth a lot in 2029, but they're just saying, hey, screw the future picks. In 2029, they hope to have Tatum and Brown in the roster, so they're not going to be bad. And that's how they go get Drew Holiday. Like, you just keep making the trades on the outside, and like everyone knew when Drew Holiday left the Bucks that it went to the Blazers because it was the Dame for Drew trade. Yeah, the Blazers didn't want Drew Holiday because they're young. They want to tank and get good picks.
Yeah,
so
they don't want a good defender to like keep teams in low scoring games. It's like, nah, throw the offensive like rookies out there and see what they can shoot. Like, no.
Yeah, exactly. Drew Holiday doesn't want to be there. The Blazers don't want them. So then the Celtics just go, oh, hey, we could probably get this guy for a little bit better of a deal because the Blazers just want picks and young guys. And you switch out Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, and Marcus Smart for Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. That feels like a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And then you just work the rest of the team around. I mean, it's just like a masterclass in building the team, and everybody's screaming from the rooftops, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they can't work together. It's like, they might not be a match made in heaven, but they're good enough to be up 2-0 in the finals, and they were in the finals last year, a couple years ago with the Warriors. Like,
And let's not forget, Derek White became insanely
Oh
good out
yeah,
of nowhere.
bald Derek White is
It was
on
a hair.
demon time.
He shaved his head, and next thing you know, he's playing like out of his mind.
and that's a guy that they got from the Spurs, who comes from the Greg Popovich system, really smart player, plays offense and defense, is consistent, plays a couple years in Boston, gets more comfortable with the team. This year, he's right now in the finals. He's averaging 17, 4, and 4. Like, he's a great player for them.
It's just it sucks watching Boston like just do this basically the right way, where they just are moving the exact right chips and pieces at the right time to get the right players to then build up a team around like the relatively young talent to surround them with like good players. Because like people, I do remember what you were saying about like the Porzingis trade, where they're like, oh, they kind of gave up a decent amount for Porzingis. He's going to turn out. It's like, well, yeah, when Porzingis is the 5th option on the team, yeah, he's going to be good. Like, what are you talking about?
You don't like if Kristaps was your if Kristaps is sometimes your 3rd best player and sometimes your 6th best player, that's fine because your team's really good. Like,
yeah.
So if Kristaps is option 3 behind Brown and Tatum, that's awesome. That means he's having a good game. And if he's option 6 behind Brown, Tatum, Holiday, White, and Al Horford, you're like, okay, that's okay.
Yeah, like you can afford that because you have good enough players that are playing above him.
And this is to compare it. It's a team like the Sixers, where the Sixers fell flat in due part because Tobias Harris, who was supposed to be the 3rd option, never played. Sorry, Raj, I know I don't want to like trigger you here.
Yeah.
But like Tobias Harris had to be the 3rd option, wasn't playing like a 3rd option. There's no talent beneath him to back him up. Well, Kristaps can play like a 3rd option, and they're going to kick everyone's ass. And if he plays like a 6th option, they might play in a close game and win. So I applaud. I like seeing basketball teams. I've been consistent over the years of being like, I usually root for the team that I think deserves to win the most to win the series, just because I think it like holds a continuity in basketball and like especially the history books. Like it would have been a mistake for the Suns to win the championship in 21 because the Bucks were a better basketball team. But it's hard because I don't like the Celtics, but they've built this team the right way. They drafted Tatum and Brown, and they built around the edges to make the team better. And then the Mavericks are just a flawed basketball team, which that's not like every team makes their run based on different situations. Listen, I don't think the Heat runs were all that like impressive to me when they made the finals for 2 years. Obviously the Lakers had help in 2020 with the bubble and all this different type of stuff. But like the Mavericks made it out of the West because they had some favorable matchups. They didn't have to play Denver early. They got to play Minnesota instead of Denver. And they made the finals, not fraudulent at all. But then you run into a team that is a lot more complete than the Timberwolves. Like the Timberwolves' biggest problem is the Timberwolves can't play offense 90% of the time. The Celtics have 5 guys on the court who can shoot and are reliable. You're like, I mean, it must be like the difference between playing a team that has Rudy Gobert as your center and Cat as the power forward to having to play like Kristaps and Tatum, who are on the perimeter. Like Cat and Tatum play the same position. They're like completely different players to have to defend against. So, but the series is not over. It's 2-0. We're heading back to Dallas tonight, which we're recording us on Wednesday. You'll see this on Thursday, so you'll know what happened with the result of the game.
Yep.
But so we're heading back to Dallas. Obviously Dallas is down 0-2. Let's first go. What does Dallas need to do better?
Play.
I mean, I think overall they got to figure out their defense, like just period. Like Luka needs to just put in more effort on defense. I know it's hard because he's carrying the full brunt of the offense, but like you can't just be a traffic cone. Like, you got to put some effort in, and like that's really kind of their big thing, I think, is like their defense, because it's not like Boston is scoring 140 points a game. Like, they've only averaged like right above 100 points a game. So like I could see a possibility where you could win a shootout with them, but you need to be able to play good enough defense that they can't just take wide open shots every single time.
Yeah. The first thing I would do is pray, because you need to keep hoping. The first thing you need to keep doing is hope that Jason Tatum is terrible. Like, Jason Tatum, give him all the flack in the world. I think he's had a really good series aside from the shooting, but Jason Tatum's not a career 32% from the field shooter. If Jason Tatum shoots 50% in one game, you're absolutely toast. You're going to lose that game.
Yeah.
So you've lost 2 games and he's been not good at shooting the basketball. So if he shoots the basketball good, you're toast. So pray that Tatum is still bad. And pray that like Jaylen Brown gets worse, whatever. And then the second thing you need to do is they need to create favorable matchups. Like we talked about a little earlier, like Kyrie will have the ball and they'll set a screen and they'll switch like Jaylen Brown or Drew Holiday or Jason Tatum onto the screen. You need to like find a way to get Kyrie to match up with Porzingis so that they can try to do a blow by, get the defense in rotation. Like, they're not creating any favorable matchups to themselves offensively. Like, stop doing this Derek Lively, Luka Doncic pick and roll, because you're just switching Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum as your defender. You're not creating an advantage there. But if you can put Luka on Al Horford, Luka on Kristaps, Luka on Derek White, you're suddenly feeling a little bit better about that situation there, and maybe you could get something going. I think the Mavericks should just play small, like 5, like stop Daniel Gafford, stop Derek Lively, put Tim Hardaway Jr., who can be a defensive liability, and go out there and say, kind of, Peter, what you said, go try to shoot the lights out at the gym and get a win. Obviously, they're still going to play big at times, because if they put Al and Kristaps on the floor at the same time, you're cooked. But but like, just, I don't know, run a zone, something. Like, if everyone's getting cooked off the ball, maybe it's better to sit back in zone. And, you know, the Celtics destroy zone because they shoot the ball so well, but maybe say, hey, maybe they'll miss all the shots today.
Yeah, maybe the crowd noise will finally get to them. Maybe the lights will be too bright that game. I don't know. You got to do something different to at least show you're trying, because you could just completely give up at this point. But if you like try something different, it's like, look, we threw the book at them. They beat everything. I don't know what you want us to do.
Mm.
What they need to do is shoot the 3 ball better, because if it's not good, Luka is accounting for 8 of your 13 made threes in 2 games.
That's bad.
I didn't even know it was that bad. It's awful.
Yeah, it's bad. PJ Washington 1 for 8, Kyrie 0 for 8, Derek Jones Jr. 1 for 5, Hardy 1 for 3, Josh Green 1 for 4, Tim Hardaway 0 for 1, and only Dante Exum is 1 for 1.
Oh, well, there we go. We got one dude in there.
Well, so what they're doing a lot is they're just letting these players who, like, they'll double off Luka, and then one guy at the top of the 3-point, like right in dead center, will just start taking threes. But it's because they're leaving guys open who are not good at shooting. But they've got to hit those. But they have also just to put shooters on the court. Like, it's hard because Derek Jones Jr. is your best defender for Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but that man can't play offense. So it's like the problem is if you're the Mavericks, you can't defend the Celtics and you can't score on the Celtics. So you have to either decide, are you going to try to defend the Celtics, or are you going to try to score against the Celtics? I would go with the scoring option, because maybe the Celtics will be cold. And listen, the Mavericks are going to be super desperate tonight against the Celtics, and the Celtics are probably not going to be that desperate. So I could see them poaching a win off them. But again, the Celtics just have so much room for error. Like, I hate being like, oh, there's nothing the Mavericks can do, but this is a 2-0 that feels like the Mavericks have never had an answer for.
Yeah.
They hardly led in game 1. It got close. Like, they went on a 9-0 run, the Mavericks did, to cut that lead from like, it was like 18 down to like 9 or something. But it was like fool's gold, because they went on like a 9-0 run, and the Celtics just got the lead right back, and it was over. And the same thing kind of happened in game 2. Like, I'm just watching, and it's just like, oh, yep, this team isn't equipped. And I said before the series that I thought the only way that the Mavericks could win is if Luka was averaging 40, and that might not be enough, and he's not averaging 40, and it's not enough.
Yeah.
That's just like he's 31, 11, and 6 on the offensive end of the floor, 51% shooting, and it's not enough because the Celtics are just far better than you.
Yeah.
And they'll send doubles to Luka occasionally, but they're just like, if he scores, he scores. Cool.
Yeah. We'll just make sure nobody else on the team can score. Cool.
Yeah, we'll make sure Kyrie Irving is shooting 35%. And we'll make sure no one else scores. It's just a lot for them to answer. I guess we can go into prediction time. What do you? So Raj was initially a Mavericks in 6 or 5 guy. 6.
Still am, bruh. They're gonna do the reverse sweep.
I believe. On a completely unrelated note, I just want you guys to guess the final score of the Twins and Rockies game.
Okay. Well, if the fact that you're asking me this makes me think there's gonna be a lot of runs.
It's either 1-0 in like 15 innings or like 30-12.
I'm gonna go 17-2.
Close. It was 17-9.
Jesus.
Twins.
That's brutal.
The Twins dropped 17 runs.
That's almost a football score.
It's a complete side note.
2 touchdowns.
There's some stuff in baseball sometimes where like the Twins they made the playoffs last year, but they've been really mid to start this year, and they'll just like score 17, and you're just like out of nowhere. Meanwhile, I've never watched the Phillies score 17, and they're kicking everyone's ass.
Exactly.
Even yesterday, the Dodgers have been really shaky, like offensively, they're really not putting up a lot of runs. They've had a lot of losses, and I thought they should have won those games. Then they just hung 9 last night. On I forget who they were playing, but they just hung 9 last night, and I was just like, oh, they're back.
Yeah, sometimes the bats just get hot, and it's just like, oh, this game is over. Like, there's nothing you can do.
Never the Phillies bats, though. I've never watched the Phillies ever like decimate a team.
It's always like 6 runs is like the maximum, but they'll win.
Yeah, it's like, they'll win by 5 or 6 runs all the time, but it's like they never like. I want to just watch a game where we score like 26 runs.
Yeah,
and it's just like that'd be fun, but
we'll never have.
Roger still a Mavs and 6 guy. Is that
I am a Mavs.
Is that ego guy. Or is that delusion, or is that based in fact?
Delusion. No, delusion. 100%. I am delusional.
Peter, what do you think?
So I was Mavs in 7 with a Luka game winner over Tatum. Currently, I'm looking either at a Mavs down 3-0 coming all the way back and winning in 7, or it's going to be a sweep by Boston. No in between, because I think if the Celtics win tonight, I think this series is just straight up over. Like, there's nothing that's going to change like this next time. If the Mavs are able to win tonight, I could see them gaining some momentum because that means they figured out a way to win, and then maybe they could just keep trying at that. But realistically, I think it's just going to be Boston in 4-5.
Yeah, I think I'm down to Boston in 5. Initially, I was a Boston in 7. I was leaning more towards Boston in 6, but I decided I'd keep it at 7 because of my rule that the best player in the series often wins the series. So I was like, I'll give him 7. I'm more at 5 now. It's just I don't see a way that Dallas is going to get 2 games off of Boston in a row. And if it's 3-1 going back to Boston, I think they'll just handle I think it's going to be 3-1 either way. I think the Mavericks will lose tonight and they'll go down 3-0. I think they'll just like be so desperate in game 4 that they'll win that game. I think they'll honestly probably blow. If I had to make a prediction, I think it's going to be a 3-point win by Boston tonight. It's going to be that game where it's like, oh, if Dallas had gotten this, it could have changed the entire series, but they didn't because they're not good enough. And then Dallas is going to blow Boston out in game 4 because Boston's going to be like, you know what? It would be cool to win yeah, it'd be fun to win the NBA Finals, our first since 2008, on our home floor with our fans. And then they're just going to get kicked out the gym, and Dallas is going to be playing with so much like pride because they don't want to like have the celebration. We didn't
get swept. Let's go.
And then the Celtics are going to destroy them in game 5, and then we're all going to be like, well, Boston 1-5, guys. And everyone who was stressing about the close wins against Indiana, the close wins against Cleveland, and dropping game 2s, we're going to be like, oh wow, it was actually just Boston this entire time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I see the situation going. Again, I just don't. There's just so many. Boston doesn't have to make any adjustments. Dallas has to make all the adjustments, and then the only situation I can see is if Dallas makes a ton of adjustments tonight, Boston is not prepared to match them, and then they'll match them for game 4 and go up 3-1. But we'll see. I mean, Dallas has an opportunity here. They have to win this game, get it to 2-1, get it to 2-2, and then if you get it to 2-2, and you get the momentum back. But that's going to be hard to do. I don't view this like a matchup kind of where like the Nuggets were down 0-2 on the Timberwolves, and then it's like, well, they have Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray to bring it back. It's like they don't have those guys on their entire team, so we will see.
Yes.
In football news, taking a little bit back from basketball.
Shockingly, we have some football news.
But not shockingly, it's Aaron Rodgers missing mandatory minicamp, which is
Who
just
would
like
have guessed?
It's just the most predictable thing he could do.
Yeah, so for context, for those that don't know, even though it's like the only thing that the NFL has been talking about because there's nothing else going on, Robert Saleh, the head coach of the Jets, was asked after the first day of mandatory minicamp, hey, where's Aaron Rodgers? And Robert Saleh's
our $40 million a year quarterback,
who's supposed to be bringing the Jets back to the promised land for the first time since there was colored television. And Robert Saleh says, like, we've been talking and everything. We've communicated. Like I know what's going on with him. But it's an unexcused absence. And everyone's like, what? Like, what do you mean it's an unexcused absence? Like, where is he? And it's he just needed to be away from the team right now. It's like
the weirdest thing about it is Robert Saleh knows about it, but it's not excused, which means it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like
so
any family matter or whatever would be an excused absence.
Yeah. So I think first let's go conspiracy theory and just like our Lord and Savior Aaron Rodgers, and let's put the tinfoil hats on and start screaming about this, because that's a lot more fun, even though there's probably a more realistic answer to this. But I like content, so that's what we'll do. Like the fact that Aaron Rodgers, yes, he showed up at all of the optional stuff. He showed up at all the voluntary workouts. This is such a bad look.
It's terrible.
For him just to be like, yeah, I'm just not showing up to the mandatory one. Like, I don't want to. I'm somewhere else away from football, even though it's the mandatory stuff. Like, I don't want to be there. I've played 4 snaps with this team. Who cares?
But it's the most predictable Aaron Rodgers thing ever. Like,
oh yeah,
sure. He did something good in terms of going to the involuntary, like the ones that the voluntary mini camps. Like, that was great that he went there. That's with the added context that he played 3 snaps of football last year off an Achilles injury, and you know what? He probably needed reps. So I don't really view that as a for the team thing. I view that as a for Aaron Rodgers thing, because he needed to play snaps of football because he hadn't played in a year. So then he goes to the voluntary stuff, and you're like, Aaron Rodgers, team guy. So glad to hear it. And then as soon as he does that, you loop him right back into the missing mini camp. And the way my problem with the tinfoil hat thing, right, is that is Aaron Rodgers. So it's saying something like he's attending something that's, quote, important to him. That's the quote, important to him, from Robert Saleh.
Yeah, it's like that could be anything.
That makes me think it's either supporting the RFK campaign, going to an ayahuasca conference, going to a conference related to the moon landing being fake, maybe some underground like QAnon, like secret conspiracy group.
Thing. He could be going on another darkness retreat. Again.
Like, this
like,
is like,
it could be anything.
It is not a far stretch to say that these things, the thing that he's attending right now, that's, quote, important to him, but not excused absence, is just really him just doing stupid stuff, which he's been doing for the last couple of years. And so it drives me up the wall, because Aaron's a guy I really like. Want to like. I watched him win the Super Bowl with the Packers. I think I was like around 2008, and it was the first Super Bowl that I had. It was first Super Bowl that I had watched, and so I really became a fan of Aaron Rodgers because he was like the quarterback for the team that won, and he's obviously supremely talented. But he just like, it's fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. It's like I keep getting roped back into, oh, maybe he'll like.
Maybe he's turning it around. Maybe he's like not going to be as weird this time. Nope, he's still insane.
Yep, and I felt like this was the last time. Now I'm just like, I'm done. Like, unless I hear a good reason why he had to miss it, but I don't think there's a good reason because he would have been excused.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like a ton of good reasons I can think of. Like for Robert Saleh to sit up there and say, "Yeah, I knew about it. It's not an excused absence, but it's important to him." It just means to me that the Jets organization doesn't think it's that important, because otherwise you would protect your $50 million a year quarterback, even if it wasn't a good reason to miss. Like if I was go ahead.
Yes. No. So to take the tinfoil hat off a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. I think the reason why they specifically say it's an unexcused absence is because in the CBA, so like in the like players union, whenever they sign the contracts, it's like whenever there's like an unexcused reason for missing there, like they can be fined and stuff like that. So like he might have told the team like far in advance about this and like have them known about it, and like they were like totally okay with it, but like for those like contractual reasons they might have just had to call it an unexcused absence. But at that point, you don't need to tell the media that it's an unexcused absence.
No.
Who cares?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I was a quarterback for the team and I said, "Hey, I'm going to my buddy Raj's graduation party, and could I please have the day off?" And then they were like, "Well, we're really not happy about this, but we don't want to create any like stir in the media. So, yeah, Justin, you're excused for the day. Go enjoy your friend Raj's graduation party." Okay, cool. Move on. And then if they ask why wasn't he at camp, he was on a personal reason. It's an excused absence.
Yeah,
but
or just don't even use that wording. Just say like I know where he's at. Like he's all good. Like we're on the same page. Like he'll be back soon. Like that's all you need to say. Like don't say that. Like that throws everybody off.
But that's why I know it's not an important reason, because Robert Saleh is selling him out in the media. Which honestly, shame on Robert Saleh. You should just do it. Like you've got like the last thing the Jets need is negative press right now. The last thing they need. And
these poor Jets fans.
Go on there. Yeah, I know where he's at. He's told me, but it's unexcused. Why? Because he's at a freaking ayahuasca concert, ayahuasca convention in Los Angeles, or he's out there campaigning for the RFK campaign, whatnot, anti-vaccine. So I don't know. And this is just so bad for many reasons. Like this, I looked this up because I wanted to check. Do you guys know what the first three positions the Jets took in the draft this year?
Hang on. It was it was lineman. It was it was like all offense, right?
Yeah, they drafted an offensive tackle in the first round, a wide receiver in the third round, and a running back in the fourth round. So you're during mandatory minicamp, you're going to miss the entire week when the guys on your team, an offensive tackle, wide receiver, and running, they're so important to your success this year. That fourth round running back is going to play a lot of snaps. Your third round wide receiver is going to play some significant snaps. And Olu Fashanu is going to be the left tackle for the future. And instead of doing that, instead of showing up for them and making sure you got your stuff down, you're like, yep, nope, not going to show up.
Also, they could have moved, like if this was such a big deal that Rodgers told them about this before, they could have had mandatory minicamp last week. They could have moved it. So that way it wasn't interfering with this.
Yeah, because it's not a big deal, because he's at some place he shouldn't be at. Like he doesn't
Dude, he's been doing this for years.
That's what I'm saying.
Surprised.
He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt because he always doesn't show up. He always makes mistakes. He always blames other. Like this is not. If this was like Jalen Hurts, I'd be like, and they said it was unexcused, I'd be like, well, it must be really important to Jalen Hurts. Like,
yeah, and he must be doing something really good, and it like comes out that he's doing like charity work, and it's like, that tracks.
I know Aaron ain't doing anything important. Also, he knows he's not, because he doesn't put out a statement. Like if he was doing something important, he'd put out a statement and just be like, hey guys, I know it's probably disappointing. Hey Jets Nation, I know it's probably disappointing to hear I'm not at mandatory mini camps, but I'm currently in like Africa building water wells for like children. Like, and it's really important to me. But no,
But the thing is, he has responded to some things. He has tweeted about some stuff because it was like, I think it was oh God, I think it was Diana Rossini, I think, tweeted this out and was like basically kind of chirping him about it. Was like, Aaron Rodgers not at mandatory minicamp because he is somewhere that is more important than football, like to him, or something along those lines. And Rodgers, I think, kind of like challenged that and was like, oh, like well, like we're on the same page, like whatever, blah, blah. It's like, why don't you just say where you are then?
If it's that,
just say it.
If it's that important to you, you shouldn't be embarrassed or like scared to tell people.
Yeah, like, all right, tell us where you're at.
And again, there's no death in the family, no child being born.
Oh my God! Wait, sorry. I literally, as I just said that, I got the tweet on my Instagram.
That's so funny.
Aaron Rodgers is skipping all of Jets' mandatory minicamp this week because he prefers to be somewhere else besides football. That's his choice. That's such a good tweet.
That's true. Like, there's nothing else around that, and it's terrible for the draft picks that are coming in. It's terrible for team vibes, and you know what? Like, you need to make the playoffs this year. You got lucky. Not lucky is a strong word. You didn't have the scrutiny last year because you lost Aaron Rodgers early, and you had Zach Wilson playing quarterback. The Bills and the Dolphins aren't going anywhere. Like, they're still going to be a tough out in your division. Like, you have to start the season strong. Your first game of the season is the 49ers on Monday Night Football, and you're not going to be as prepared because you've skipped an entire week of practice of mandatory mini camp because you're off again supporting RFK's campaign against, like, on a crusade against Dr. Fauci. Like, that's what he's doing. Like, I know that's what he's doing. He's at some anti-vaccine conference, and he's like the guest speaker there.
Oh God, yeah. He's like, guys, I'm telling you,
guys, this is the same offseason.
Rocks,
guys, it's the same offseason where he said he was going to potentially be the vice president for RFK. like this is not like the idea that he's not off doing something ridiculous right now is ridiculous.
Dude, I cannot wait till this season the Jets go like 8-9 and miss the playoffs and Aaron Rodgers retires and the Jets are just nuked. Like, oh God, it's gonna be so funny, dude.
We've really had the full Aaron Rodgers experience, right? Like last year, tears his Achilles, and he honestly a pretty he's not really injury prone, so it's like, wow, this is a freak accident. That sucks for the Jets. Like, they're so unlucky. But then he recovers. Maybe he's going to come back in January. He was never coming back in January. And then, so you come off season. He's at all the voluntary stuff, and you're like, wow, what a great guy. Like, he's really in for the team. Like, he's really impressed Nathan. Then a report comes out that he's on the quote short list for RFK's vice presidential candidate in a third party run. You're like, oh wow, okay, he wants to be the vice president over playing football. That's interesting. Then, okay, he's not picked for the vice president. Which he never denied. He never denied. Like, he would have surely become the vice president. He would have surely been the candidate if they had picked him for it. Then after that whole drama, so you're like, finally, we can just focus on football with Aaron Rodgers. Now he's somewhere off, except mandatory minicamp for a team that pays him $50 million a year to be the star quarterback and get them back to, like you said, Peter, the promised land. And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to tell you my reason why either.
Oh God.
And honestly, poor Jets in this situation a little bit. I mean, they did sign the guy, but like, they can't tell him no because
then it's like then he's gonna just retire, like,
or they're like, if you put down the hammers that you have to be here or else we're not going to play you. Well, then if you don't play him, you're going to suck. We saw what it was like with Zach Wilson last year.
Yeah, true.
Wait, who's
Tyrod Taylor? They actually have a good backup quarterback now.
Oh,
so like.
God.
They have a good guy to back him up whenever Aaron Rodgers is too busy doing ayahuasca and summoning like demons in the locker room. But they're still not gonna.
Oh my God! Wait, I forgot they have Jordan Travis.
Yeah, they do. They're gonna try to. They are praying to God that Jordan Travis can at least get one offseason with Aaron Rodgers and get some mentoring. Because they're like, hey, maybe he'll be like Jordan Love. Let's hope to God, because at this rate, Rodgers is not gonna help us.
Nope. He's preparing for his 2028 run for president.
God.
I don't know who's gonna win the AFC East anymore. The Jets could be like that. The Bills have fallen off.
Well, we know it's not the Patriots.
Well, we know.
Truthfully, it's just like, to me, this whole recent minicamp thing is a disaster for the Jets. Like Hassan Reddick, who you traded for and was supposed to.
Oh my God! Yeah, I forgot about that.
Like, who was supposed to help replace the loss of Bryce Huff, who went to the Eagles. He's not showing up to minicamp because he needs a new contract. Well, the Jets don't want to pay him a new contract because currently they're paying Aaron a ton of money to be the quarterback for the team when he's too busy doing whatever the hell else he thinks is more important than playing football. So, like, your Aaron Rodgers and your best defensive edge, they're not at minicamp right now. And you've got to go into a season where this is like make or break stuff. Like, this is the best your team is, best your roster has been in decades. And your quarterback for the team is not showing up.
Yeah.
The Jets are.
I am trying to rack my brain around what could be so important for him not to show up to minicamp, but it not be count as excused.
He's reconnecting with his family.
That I can guarantee. I would put $10,000 on it right now that he's not doing that.
But I just feel like the Jets would maybe approve the absence if he was like, listen, there's a big family reunion. I'm going to just be gone for a day or two. Is that okay? He's missing the entire week.
It's just so dumb. Like, come on. Like, you were a professional quarterback in the NFL. Go to minicamp. Like,
it's infuriating. But can we talk about something else that's dysfunctional?
Yes, yeah, please.
The Lakers coaching carousel.
Oh yeah, that's less dysfunctional, right? I forgot about that.
God.
Like, it's honestly, it's at a point where it's ridiculous. So this comes in the context of Dan Hurley getting an offer, a can't miss offer of 6 years, $70 million to make him the sixth highest paid coach in the league. So the whole coaching, you guys talked about this on the podcast. It was just the two of you about how, like, we were talking about JJ Redick being the coach, and it is what it is. Then they come out middle of the night report after game one of the finals. It's like, oh, Dan Hurley, the Lakers are going after him. And everyone and their mom should have known the Lakers weren't actually going to get him, because the Lakers lowball every single coach they ever try to sign, and they can never hold on to a coach. So then it's like, wow, Dan Hurley is going to be the coach of the Lakers? That's crazy. Actually, no, because they lowballed him.
Whenever everybody saw that the Lakers were trying to hire a coach, every single analyst at Sports Center, ESPN, they all were like, thank God we could talk about the Lakers again, because this finals is so boring. We need to talk about the Lakers.
Yeah, anything Lakers comes up, and as before we had the whole technology issue, it just as soon as they said they were going to try to go after Dan Hurley, it was very obvious they weren't actually going to get him, because they lowball every single coach they ever go for. And then some other people said this, mainly Nick Wright, so it's stealing his thing a little bit, but the most predictable thing is that when they sign JJ Redick after the finals are over, because right now he's calling the finals, they can be like, well, guys, we tried to get Dan Hurley, the back-to-back national champion who's great at his job. We tried to get him, but he denied our offer. When in reality, your offer was paying him the sixth highest coach in the league, which is good, but not Dan Hurley. Dan Hurley is going to has a good chance to go for a three-peat in the NCAA next year.
Yeah, and
that
also,
guy gets paid more than Monty
difference.
Williams.
Yeah, it's like that. Exactly. It's like you are underpaying this guy who then has to completely change his style of coaching, which is what has made him.
He has to move across the country.
He has to move across the country, which is actually a much bigger deal than I think people kind of put in perspective. He's from New Jersey. He's an East Coast guy, and all of his family lives out there. He's going to have to pick up his family, move them out to Los Angeles, be under the most scrutiny in the entire NBA, because he's the head coach of the Lakers with LeBron James. it's going to be absolutely chaotic, or he could just, try to cement his name in college basketball history by being the first, either the first or one of the only coaches to three-peat with the team. Like, that is insane. And not to mention, UConn could just go like, oh, were the Lakers going to pay you a lot of money? Well, we'll just throw all of the money we have at you to make you stay. Like, we don't care. Like, this is the only UConn only has basketball. We will throw everything we have at you to make you stay.
It's just like the Lakers are ridiculous. They said they won Jason. They were going to prepare an offer for Jason Kidd, who's currently coaching in the finals. They didn't get Jason Kidd. The Dallas Mavericks gave him a contract extension for more money. They said they wanted Ty Lue this season when he needed a contract extension. The Clippers promptly gave him a huge contract extension, and they're not getting Ty Lue. They wanted Dan Hurley. They talked to Dan Hurley. They promptly didn't get Dan Hurley, and he got a contract extension with UConn. Like,
yeah,
and also right now he's out scouting at like some like high school AAU tournament. Like, he was never coming to the Lakers.
Yeah,
they just made it seem like he was going to come to the Lakers because they wanted to say they tried, which I don't have a problem with them going and getting JJ Redick. I really don't have a problem with it, but it's all just so that they can be like, guys, we tried to get somebody better, but we know how it looks. LeBron's podcast, buddy. We know this isn't a great look, but we tried. That's what they want to say.
Yeah, because they want to just try to like hedge their bets, even though it's like, look, if you're gonna go try to get and hire JJ Redick, go all in. Like, don't beat around the bush. Like, if that's the guy that you think is actually going to help this team, go get him. Quit the bullshit. Like, stop trying to pretend like, oh, well, we're going to try to hire some other coaches, but like, oh, those kind of fell through. So like, we did do a full. It's like, look, just go get your guy. I don't care who it is. Just go get him.
Yep, because JJ can't accept this job because he's calling the NBA Finals, which is fine. But that means you didn't need to start this whole Dan Hurley thing, because you offered him money, like you wanted him to be your coach, but you just gave him a terrible offer. Again, there's like the Monty Williams is a good coach, but there's that like bar for a paycheck you need to clear for him, because the guys in the league right now, Popovich, Kerr, he's not going to get more money than those. Then you have like Ty Lue, Jason Kidd. There's one other guy I'm missing right now. Those guys are like the top 5 coaches in the league. Then there's Monty Williams. Good coach, but you need to pay him, Dan Hurley, back-to-back national champion, more money than you pay Monty Williams. They didn't even try. And listen, some of this comes down to the Lakers are not as rich of a basketball like franchise as other teams are. Like, Steve Ballmer got a ton of money. The way you pay coaches comes out of the cap differently. It doesn't come against the cap. So like, it's about how much the owners want to pay for you. But so I understand that they're at that little bit of a disadvantage. But like, if Dan Hurley's your guy for the future, because you're not getting Dan Hurley to help you win a championship next year. You're getting Dan Hurley so he'll help you win a championship next year, and then when LeBron retires, you can really develop some young guys. So he's your coach for the next like this contract was going to be 6 years. If they had gotten Dan Hurley to a 6-year contract, that he would have been the head coach for at least 5 of those 6 years, even if he was bad. So like, pay him a lot of money. Like, it just blows my mind. Why? Like, I know why they did it, but that you would put this out there, give him a low ball him, and then you're just gonna be like, oh, okay, well, we'll just get JJ, but it's the guy we're gonna get the whole time.
Yeah, so it's like, just enough. Like, stop pretending like this isn't what you're doing, because like you were saying, because obviously the Lakers as a brand are stupid rich, but the owner doesn't want to spend that kind of money. Is the whole thing,
because they don't have a lot of money, because they're not they're not a rich family. Like, they're not Mark Cuban and Steve Ballmer.
Exactly. So it's like, if that's who you were going to get from the beginning because you didn't want to shell out that kind of cash, what are we doing? You
could have just been quiet for another week or two. The finals would end, and then you could have JJ sign the contract and then announce him as your head coach. Like, you didn't need to start this whole.
Yeah. It really seems unprofessional, honestly. It really does, because it's just like, there's no point in this.
It does, and they partly did this so they could pay JJ probably less money. They're like, oh, well, Dan Hurley declined $10 million a year. JJ, you aren't half experienced as Dan Hurley, so we're going to give you $3 million. They just want to pay him less money. And the weird part about this all that's bothering me more is that LeBron apparently is out of the coaching search, but they keep doing everything to appease LeBron. Like, apparently LeBron is not involved in the coaching search. That's like very well reported. Yet somehow JJ, who he has a podcast with, is the front runner for the job.
Dude.
And then they're like, Dan Hurley, obviously the great coach, and like you'd get him anyway. But
it felt so random. It's like, why him? Like, I get he's a really good college coach, but like, there's no connection between like why he would then leave UConn as a college basketball coach, which he's
except for the fact that LeBron tweeted that he really likes Dan Hurley during March Madness.
I forgot about that.
Because the Lakers are psychos. They don't use their brain.
Psychotic, dude.
They're like, wait, hold on. LeBron's out of the coaching search, but we should still try to appease LeBron, right? No, go get the best coach. Like
Jesus Christ.
Like get a coach that's going to make the team good. You missed the playoffs for 6 straight years for a time. Like after Kobe was done being good and before you got LeBron, you missed the playoffs all 6 years. Like you don't want to do that again. LeBron's going to retire in a year or two. Like get a coach that's going to help you be good when LeBron leaves in a couple years. That's why LeBron is not involved in the coaching search, because he said, I'm not going to be here long. Don't worry. He told the organization to hire a coach for he told the organization to hire a coach for Anthony Davis and not himself, because he doesn't know how long he's going to play. And they're going around circles trying to hire JJ Redick and Dan Hurley because LeBron has a podcast with JJ and because he said Dan Hurley's a really sharp guy. It's like Aaron Rodgers wanting Nathaniel Hackett to be the coach because he played darts with him. Like, it's crazy. Like,
oh my God, dude.
This is just comedy at this point.
It's ridiculous.
The NBA has to be a comedy show.
And the finals are going to end, and JJ's going to be announced as the coach, and we're going to be like, we didn't need this whole Dan Hurley thing. We didn't need it. The only way the Dan Hurley thing would have made sense is if they were like, Dan Hurley, we're going to give you 8 years, $150 million. You're like the second highest paid coach of all time. And he's like, well.
And it's like, whoa, okay.
And then if he turns,
really trying.
Yeah, and then if he turns it down, you're like, well, I mean, we gave him the best offer you can give a guy. Like, he just doesn't want to be the Lakers head coach. But you didn't. You gave him an offer.
Oh my God. The Lakers are going to be such a mess when LeBron finally retires, dude.
I think people just forget how bad the Lakers were. Like you won the finals.
They were so bad.
You won the finals in 2010, right? Then 2011, 12, you're kind of like you're kind of in the playoffs, you're not making title runs, whatever. Then you miss the playoffs for 6 straight years. The first year you're healthy with LeBron, you win the finals. Then you're in the conference finals, first round exit, injuries. Now LeBron might retire again, and you're going to be back to being dog again. Like,
dude, because I remember, because people forget there's this one clip of Kobe. I think he was on, I forget if it was on Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, one of the late night Jimmys.
Yeah.
And they pulled up this clip of all of the Lakers like celebrating after they won, and they were like a bad team.
I remember. This is the Nick Young team.
Yes, dude. And then it cuts to Kobe, and he is just stone faced. And then whoever the late night host is like, "Oh, like what? You're not happy?" He's like, "We used to celebrate finals wins.
Yep.
What is this?" Like, it was so funny, dude.
It's just like, I just wish they would like. Again, I don't have a problem with them getting JJ Redick, but like, at that point, don't leak the stuff about Dan Hurley. Like, it's just all a dumb game. And again, it's like the two candidates, like Dan Hurley and JJ. It's like, oh, that seems to make LeBron really happy when LeBron told you to not pick a coach.
Don't do that.
People forget LeBron could leave. Like, LeBron's not doesn't need to be on the team next year.
He's going to the Sixers, right?
Yeah.
You guys sound so happy about that.
I take LeBron in a heartbeat.
The Bronny draft begins. Sixers will draft Bronny in the second round, and LeBron's suddenly in Philadelphia.
LeBron, I'm going to say this right now. LeBron is not going to Philadelphia over LA. I'm sorry. That's not happening.
I think all the stuff about LeBron potentially leaving, that's all like with the Bronny stuff too. That's all been like ridiculous. Like, he's not leaving the Lakers. Number one, it's Los Angeles. It's one of the better cities in the U.S., especially if you're rich and you can afford to live there. So like, that's number one. He's big into Hollywood industry, the movie industry. He has his own movie company that's all based in Hollywood. So like, why are you going to leave? Number two, I can guarantee you Savannah doesn't want to leave Los Angeles. Zuri and Bryce all have their like lives in Los Angeles. So the idea that he's just going to he's going to move to someplace different to like follow Bronny is not going to be the case.
No.
And Bronny has said in interviews he doesn't need his dad to follow him to like Utah. That's where he goes. So like
Exactly.
like maybe LeBron after another year or two with the Lakers in his third year would just go and sign a minimum to play with.
Yeah, literally just to play with him and then retire, like kind of
But
thing.
he's not like LeBron still, and we'll go into our top 10 player list when the finals is over. But like he's still on my top 10 players in the league list, and he's not going to waste a year of that going to Charlotte to go play with Bronny because Charlotte's delusional and thinks that
he would retire. He would retire before he goes to Charlotte.
Yeah, like it's just not happening. So
yeah.
The Lakers drive me insane.
Like the only team I could unironically see LeBron going to would be the Knicks. I don't think it's like even possible for him to even go there. But like that would be the only team that I could like legitimately see him trying.
Before the Mavericks made the finals, I would have said the Mavericks. Like I could see a scenario in which they would have gone with like a Kyrie, Luka, Bron, get Bronny down there. Okay, Dallas is not. Like it's far, but not crazy far from Los Angeles.
Yeah,
still like an up and coming city. Like okay, you could see why he would go there, want to play with Kai again. But yeah, the Knicks, Mavericks, and that's probably maybe Cleveland, just for the story.
Oh my god, he goes back, wins another.
He might because I don't like. This is what drives me insane about the Jordan debate. Now we're just getting off topic, but
LeBron
has played on completely like dysfunctional. Like I don't think people really understand how dysfunctional the Lakers are. They're a terribly run basketball organization. They make bad decisions all the time. Like you can't name a good player they've drafted aside from Alex Caruso, who the ownership let walk for nothing. Like so they got a good player in Alex Caruso, and then he left in the offseason because they didn't want to pay Alex Caruso. They could have really used Alex Caruso this year. They got Lonzo Ball, Lonzo Ball had an injury history. He's not as bad as everyone thinks, but Lonzo Ball wasn't the number 2 pick in the draft that year. They screwed that up. By the way, they could have taken Jason Tatum that year. So because it was Markelle Fultz, Lonzo, Tatum. So they drafted Lonzo instead of Tatum. That was a big mistake. They let Caruso, who was their only good draft pick. They got Ingram, who was good, but they traded him away for AD, which was a good decision. And then they like Julius Randle didn't work out for them. All these things don't work out for them. They still don't draft well.
Did they draft Austin Reeves?
Yeah.
Okay, so that like he legitimately might be one of their better draft picks. Like
he is,
recent
and
memory.
And Reeves is good. But they just like they make bad decisions left, right. Like the fact that the Lakers got a title in 2020 is like they're very fortunate for that, or else they'd be a organization
they'd be
like
the laughing stock. Yeah,
like the Boston Celtics have been like disappointing compared to their history of titles, but they have been relevant for a ton of seasons. Like they were relevant in 2022 when they went to the finals. They're relevant again this year because they're going to win the finals. They went in 2008. They constantly had those Eastern Conference final runs when LeBron was dominating the East. Like they were at least relevant. The Lakers are, besides that one championship, are a really irrelevant basketball team because they made the conference finals last year. And then aside from that, they didn't make the conference finals until Kobe was around. So
funnily enough, I think I would compare the two teams, as insane as this is about to sound. I would say currently the Celtics are much more like the Yankees, where like haven't won anything recently but are still very relevant, versus the Lakers, who are like if the Mets went on like a Linsanity run and somehow won the World Series, but they were just completely irrelevant for so long. And then now where they're both kind of in like cap hell.
Didn't the Mets win the World Series in 18 or something?
No, they went to the World Series. They didn't win.
Well, so let's just call it like they went to it in 18. It's like, wow, that's really off-brand for the Mets. Like, that's what happened to the Lakers. It was like, oh yeah, during that pandemic when we all played in Disney, like we won the title. That's like really cool. And then nothing of consequence has really happened since. And you're like, wow, this team's just actually poorly run and bad.
It's so bad, dude. Oh my god.
Anyway,
I can't wait anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the last thing I'll say about the Lakers, and we'll talk about more NBA teams.
No more Lakers talk. We'll
talk more off-season basketball when it's actually the off-season.
Exactly.
But for now,
anyways, here's Jimmy Butler's new hairstyle.
What is that?
Oh, well,
it looks like his kid.
Oh god. Oh my god. I could go off a side rant, but Jimmy Butler is turning into like actually an obnoxious human being.
Anyway, we'll get to that. We'll get to it.
That'll be next week's Cold Open. Your rant.
Oh yeah, the Jimmy Butler rant episode.
It would be 3 hours long. I'm bringing statistics. Anyway, that has been episode 35 of the Coconut Curry podcast. Thank you all for listening. If you like this episode and made it this far, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next time.